Thank you, Father Gargosh. Just to follow up on Razvan's comment about different traditions working together, I just finished an extraordinary master's seminar with Dr. Schneider on the theology of love, in which we had an Indian woman living in the Gulf states who appeared to come from the Methodist tradition, a Northern Ireland Presbyterian woman, a Serbian Orthodox, a Ukrainian Orthodox refugee living in the United States, and myself, born Church of England and become Orthodox after a 30-year wandering around the lapsed wilderness. So that sort of chemistry of different traditions coming together around a contemplation or engagement with the theology of agape and eros is very fascinating. So I've been asked to speak about the experience of studying for a doctorate through IOCS. Well, first of all, if one's going to study for a doctorate, one needs an escape valve. One must have a way of switching off from 4 or 5 years of steady and intense obsessive work. In my case, this was watching British TV, murder, and police mysteries, and I'm so glad we have an expert in our midst. From these, I have learned to avoid those places in the UK where there is a murder every week. Oxford, the Welsh borderlands, Cornwall, Shetland, even Brighton. On the positive side, Cambridge is untouched. Now, I've also learned how to solve the crime. You must look for motive, means, and opportunity. So back to the question in hand. A PhD in Orthodox theology. Motive, means, and opportunity. Well, I had the motive. I'd been introduced to the Orthodox liturgy as a teenager by my grandfather, who was, by the way, a retired Chief Inspector CID, Bengal Police. I'd been chrismated Orthodox some 15 years earlier. We're in 2020 right now. In the United States, in the mountains in Vermont. I'd taken introductory courses in theology at Saint-Serge in Paris, and I'd found a new career following retirement from non-profit management as a translator of a French Orthodox theologian, Olivier Clément. So I had the motive. I had the means. I had the linguistic basis in French and Russian. I had the academic preparation, albeit some 45 years before, and one of them, unfortunately, at that other place in the Cotswolds that was mentioned. And I had enough of a financial cushion. I had a flexible schedule and enough of a financial cushion to be able to manage the academic fees, which at that time for those outside the UK were about £7,500 a year. But where was the opportunity? So first of all, my daughter got her doctorate as a doctoral nurse practitioner, the first doctorate in the family in as long as we can trace the family history. And then my son got his master's in finance. He was my 40th birthday present, so the youngest one got his master's professional to qualification. And he turned to me and said, "Dad, it's time you finished your education where you left off at age 25. Second, I looked around the world. Where could I do a PhD in Orthodox theology by dissertation only? And up popped IOCS in my web search, and I sent in a research proposal. Third, I was interviewed and accepted, but everything hinged on being able to find a supervisor for the arcane subject of the life work of an unexplored theologian, Olivier Clément, on whom almost nothing had been written. So here's the magic of the IOCS Anglia-Ruskin model, with one internal supervisor drawn from the Institute's network and one external supervisor drawn from anywhere in the world. We were able to assemble a supervisory team of eminent Orthodox scholars with complementary knowledge bases, Elizabeth Theokratov and Father Michael Plecon, both of whom, luckily, I'd known for some 10, in one case, or 20 years before. But I must also give credit to the systematic oversight and review process of Anglia-Ruskin University. The core of this is mandatory bi-monthly supervisions with a reporting process that people love to complain about. These supervisions over the course of 4 years became more like an advanced seminar on hypostasis, neo-patristic theology, the theological thought of the French school and the Russian theologians. But then imagine my surprise when, for the first mandatory annual review, where I expected a cozy and comfortable check-in with IOCS staff, I had to report on my work to 2 outside examiners from the Cambridge Theological Federation. And then again, for the upgrade review, where you move from MPhil status to candidate status, 2 new outside examiners. And then again, for the annual review in my final year, 2 further independent outside examiners. This required explaining my project each time, not simply to an outside examiner, but to an examiner who came from a different theological background, with whom I shared no comfortable common understandings. And finally, the selection of external examiners, to make it clear that this IOCS thesis, if it was to be approved, had met the approval of 2 eminent scholars, each highly regarded in their field. Now, of course, the content of the thesis matters, but even the greatest scholars give place of honor to their Dr. Vater, their supervisor, or their Dr. Mutter, their other supervisor, and to their examiners. So the end result, or I might say the opportunity, and here I'm not just speaking of my own work, is a world-class doctorate from a small and highly effective center of Orthodox scholarship, whose impact will be felt more and more as the next cohorts of doctoral scholars and master's students present their completed work. And as a footnote, there's some very, very interesting work being done on the Ethiopian tradition that is absolutely unique. Thank you, Elizabeth Theokratov, Father Michael Plecon. Thank you, Father John Gillians, Father Dragos, Razvan, Christoph, and Deacon Gregory.